Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. See how I did that? I just said we're not going to do side stories, but I do this in all of them, and that's because somebody commented on it once. But welcome back to the channel, guys. It's Neil and Steph. We're here talking about some different things. It's a rainy day in South Dakota, so we thought we'd sit inside and make some content. No shooting today, but the rain will stop. We'll be back on the range in time. But I want to talk today about the 80-20 rule.
MagTech is the only freedom seed I use on the range. I personally have over 100,000 rounds downrange of MagTech, and it's unbelievably reliable, very accurate, and a great value. Pick some up for your next range trip wherever you shop for range supplies.
Steph.
Yes.
Tell the kind folks that are still watching this, what's the 80-20 rule?
The 80-20 rule is, I'll explain it my way. I'm not sure this is where you're going, but it's something called the Pareto principle.
Yep.
And we use it in our class a lot as that 80% of the work and the input that you do will get you 20%. I'm sorry, 20% of the work will get you the best outcomes, right?
Yep.
You're going to have to explain it better for me. But you do this massive amount of you do this work and it can get you the outcomes, but 80% of it will get you 20.
So in the corporate world or in the volunteer world or in the, in the world of groups of people doing work, 80% of the output comes from 20% of the people.
Right.
If you have volunteered at a church or at a camp or at anything, about 20% of the volunteers do 80% of the work. Mm-hmm. So about 20% of your inputs give you 80% of your results is how we kind of talk about it in the gun world. Mm-hmm. The thing that hit me the other day is that let's say that there's 100 instructors.
Okay.
Can we break them into the 80-20 rule? Are 20% of them giving us the 80% output, the good output?
It's a great question. And I think it's further complicated by the fact that many of us teach from different perspectives.
Yep.
For example, Tim Herron is really known for his competition shooting. That's not all he does, but he's really focused on that. And we're very clear that our stuff is a more defensive perspective. Other people are just going to be more marksmanship.
Yeah.
So there are a lot, or maybe just for fun. So there are a lot of different perspectives. So there's that too. But I suspect it probably holds true. There's also going to be the idea that maybe I'm a new student. I just need some basic safety and marksmanship. So do I need to go to one of those 20% instructors, the nationally known instructors that are giving us the best results? Or is it okay to go to my local range for $50 for an evening and learn?
The thing that really got me thinking about that is that, that I heard somebody say that the 80-20 rule is broad and goes over everything in society in most cases, right? And we hear things like, this is going to be a hot take. We hear things like, the only videos we see is the very few videos where cops do it wrong. And we don't see all of the good ones. And man, I wish there was a channel out there. Nobody would watch it. But if there was a channel out there of all the good badge cams and it was nothing but cops doing good stuff, there isn't enough that it would draw. People wouldn't watch that. But that could happen. But what I got to thinking about that is, how about in law enforcement? Does the 80-20 rule not apply there? That 80% of our good stuff comes from only 20% of our officers? That's a hot take and probably a whole different one. I probably need to have that conversation with Mike. But it also, I think, pertains to firearm instruction. And so, and from the instruction and even the student, there is a significant portion of a lot of classes where there's a lower level of skill and ability, probably because they haven't practiced a bunch, probably because they haven't had a lot of instruction. There's lots of things that can move you from that 80 into the 20. And that's a whole nother topic. But really what I kind of wanted to talk about is, when we start talking about instructors and you, the consumer, get to vote with your dollars and you get to drive change in this, is identifying those folks that are giving us not very much for our money, that are out there doing those things that put them in that 80 percentile of the lower performers, and vote with our dollars and our feet and our time coming to the higher end instructors. And maybe I am one of those 80%. I'm not saying I'm up here in the 1%. I would put Tim Herron in like the 1% up there. I would put, some like Riley Bowman way up there. I would put Chris Bean way up there. I would hope that I'm up there. But I also know of several that aren't up there that, and it's just not firearm instruction stuff. It's abuse, it's predatory behavior, it's a lot of different things that go on. And so I think as instructors, if we can hold ourselves to a higher standard, we can move more people in that direction. But the reality is there's some that don't do it great.
Well, I mean, even if you think about it from another principle, the idea of like that bell curve, right? For every Tim Heron that's going to be on the top end of the curve, since we're just using Tim as our ultimate example today, I guess, there's going to be someone here that is as unsafe and ineffective and problematic and predatory as Tim Heron is,
Yep.
And then it's going to move to where we kind of get to this middle curve where there's a lot of people offering a lot of good information in the middle. And, the idea that you as a student need to know, I think, some of what your goals are, because if my goals are, hey, I just want to learn some basic gun safety. I don't know anything about guns. I have guns in my home. I want to get some basic instruction. I can probably find someone in the middle of that kind of curve that is able to do that. But if I'm looking for something different, I may need to move, farther up or down that percentage to figure out what I'm looking for. It may cost more money. However, I would even submit that if I went to, again, let's just use Tim Heron, I guess, but I just wanted to learn basic gun safety. I probably couldn't afford Tim Heron for just basic gun safety, but let's say that's it. I'm probably going to learn a great deal more in a much more compressed time frame because he's a skilled and gifted teacher. Yeah. So even if you are going for, basics ideas that anyone could teach, often you can still get it better. It's the same idea that we talk about. Can you just go out and start dry firing? Absolutely, you can. You can do that. The challenge you had, the challenge I had when we first started was, what does that even mean? Yep. Do I just say, because I've heard from so many people, I just sit and I just pull the trigger, 500 times a night while I'm watching TV. That's not dry fire. It's not dry fire. But a lot of people think that it is, and that was one of our biggest struggles and hurdles to overcome. So something like an instructor or a tool like the Mantis X, something that can give me as a new student, when I was a new student, feedback, so I understand when I move and feel my body this way, it does these things in the electronics. Feedback, it's almost like that biofeedback that'll help me understand, okay, so I want to do that with my body again. It shortcuts that learning process so much. That's important. So going to a 20% instructor for even stuff that is maybe not a 20% activity.
And I think we're fortunate that we know that a lot of the 20, no, I don't know everybody in the industry, and I know there's great people out there that I don't know. But as I look at that, I think there's the 20% in instruction and the value of their message. There's also that 20% in their integrity and the way that they act and the way that they treat students. And so I again, this series is kind of on, it's on both sides of the coin. We're talking to instructors and to students, but those are the kind of things that you need to do a little bit of digging into. And there are some instructors out there, unfortunately, that don't have the highest level of integrity. And again, I'm not sitting here trying to throw stones at any one particular person. But as you listen to this, you probably thought of somebody, oh, I did hear a story about that person. And yet you may be lined up to take that person's class. And so why are we as consumers supporting those people that are doing things of questionable integrity?
Here's maybe a potential another hot take are the 20% of the instructors giving us 80% of the problems, of the reports of predatory behavior, of the mocking and students. And when I talk about predatory behavior, I'm talking about everything from, asking your students out up to trying to break into their hotel rooms. Again, real stories. So, cornering people in classrooms so they can't get away. These types of things they do happen. Is it, 20% of the instructors causing that much? I would suggest,
it probably is.
I don't know that it's 20, but I would say it's a small number of instructors, but they can wreak havoc on a large amount of people.
And then those people don't take classes. About it. And we've had student after student after student after student after student, most of them women, that will name a couple of instructors that the last class I took was 8 years ago with XYZ. And I'm not naming names. You guys know who they are. And if you don't, sorry, there's ways for you to find that out. But the last class I took was 10 years ago, where this person, made me cry, screamed at me, told me to use my big boy words, whatever. And it's not all women. It's not, because there's a few men that have told me this stuff as well, that, I went and took a class, and if that's what gun school is, I don't want to be any part of it. And I wouldn't either. And then there's those of us that are like, well, if an instructor ever talked to me that way, I'd punch him in the mouth. No, you wouldn't. You're not going to. I mean, if you would, you need to seek some therapy yourself. The fact is, you're in a place where another person is in authority over you as the instructor. So, the fact that we all can talk big at times. I do it too. But the reality is, I'm not punching somebody in the face for yelling at me on the line. At this point, I've made the decision. That's when I'm going to pack up and go, you know what, this was a bad idea. I'm not going to get anything out of this. I don't respect what you're doing as a version of instruction, and I'm not going to learn from this. So I'm going to vote with my feet and bail out right now. And I'm probably going to tell my story. To some degree, I'm not going to go out and scream to the world, but I'm going to tell my friends what my experience was. And that's what we've heard from our friends over and over, and some of our students over and over again, that here's my experience. And yet a lot of these instructors are still in the industry doing what they do. And I think that we as consumers, and I'm talking about myself as a student in this, we get to vote with our dollars. So, if you hear those things, just because, somebody has an instructor listed on there that, this is somebody that I endorse, take it a step further. Do a Google search, find out who these people are, watch some of their videos, understand what they're doing, ask some other people in the industry, and eventually you will find more on this person that will either make you more comfortable or will make you uncomfortable enough to call it and not go to that class.
Can I close it with a few actionable things? One thing that is great to do if you're not sure, like I am just trying to get in here, I don't know who to take classes from. They all look great. Sometimes people that looks great on social media are real dirtbags, but they're successful in that medium or whatever. Conference style training is a great place to go take a lot of classes with a lot of other students and experience short sessions with a lot of instructors. If you're looking for a great chance to do that, the Active Self-Protection National Conference, look on our website. It's in September. We have 4 ranges, 4 classrooms going all the time. Tons of great instructors. You can come experience them in what I would say is a very safe environment. You can decide right away, I need more of that person's class, or I need to never take a class from that person again. And if that is your response at my conference, I need a conversation about it, please, because I work very, very hard to find those people. But regardless of our conference, there's other conference style training that is a great way. Lots of people are offering online training. Again, a low bar way to learn a little bit about how this person interacts. And I think that's a great way to do it. And at the conference style, or getting into kind of those training communities, or having a training partner and buddy, you can kind of bounce these ideas off each other, because it is really easy to just, I'm just going to brush this off. I'm just going to leave it. But in some instances, we end up kind of enabling this kind of behavior to go on for way too long. And if we can kind of hold each other and put some lines in the sand here, this isn't okay, and we can say when it's not okay, that can be really helpful. So again, this is a golden age of training. There is resources everywhere. Reach out, talk to people. To spend, whatever it is. For our conference, it's $750, although it does include all of your meals and free lodging on first come, first served basis. So that's cheap as dirt for training, honestly. But it's still $750, and it's still travel, and it's still all of these things. And most of your classes are the same way. That is a lot of money. Take a little bit of time, because frankly, a lot of trainers out there, well-known names that I've taken courses that I've gone, this was really not worth the hype. I'm not sure. I think maybe that's will have to be a topic for another video. But the idea that once I've invested $800 in this class, I have to talk about how great it is. I can't say, that guy was trash. I didn't learn anything. He treated me like crap, because then I look like an idiot for spending that much money. So again, maybe there's another idea to take some endorsements from people with a grain of salt, because we've got an investment there and a personal investment there. But trust your gut, do some research, go see trainers in small amounts, and invest your training dollars wisely, because your training dollars, your training time, your attention, your endorsements, these are all currency, they are all power, and they can all drive change.
Wow, that was a great end. See you next time.